15th of May, 2014, 12:16 p.m. Corey and I made our way out of geography. We walked around the yard, taking the long around today as to not get stuck in the masses of students blockading the cloister. As we made our way up to the entrance to English block, Corey mentioned the fact that the air was beginning to take on a cold feeling. This was strange due to the fact it was the middle of summer, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I looked down into the area, under the admin building, but to my dismay, I could seem to hear chanting of some description. I mentioned this to Corey, but he basically ignored me, saying that we should get in the dinner queue before the good food runs out. I said he was right, and we went off to line up. However, I could not stop thinking of what could have been going on down there. I needed to know. As I walked into school the next day, I noticed something odd. There was hardly anyone around. Usually, the place is packed with people standing around, but today, the place looked abandoned, desolate, unwelcoming. I walked down to the usual place, but there was no Corey waiting for me. Now, this wasn't too strange, as Corey had a tendency to randomly stay off whenever he feels like it, but coupled with what I saw yesterday, and the grim nature of the school today, I feared the worst. A few minutes went by, but still no Corey. I occasionally saw a teacher walk past and into the admin, but no one special. My mind was a mess of thoughts about what I could have heard yesterday. I needed to know. Suddenly, a mysterious, thick, grey fog descended over the school, out of which Corey walked. The air took on a sinister coldness, and rain began to fall from the blackened sky. I explained to Corey that I needed to know what it was I had heard the day before. We began walking over to the English block entrance, the same place I had heard the chanting the day before. Corey was quick to point out an ominous red light seeping through the gaps in the old doors. We carefully sneaked our way down the ramp and over to the doors. That same chanting could be heard, along with what sounded like a muffled scream of some sort. Understandably, Corey became a little spooked by this and fled to the top of the ramp, leaving me on my own. I peered through the keyhole, but could hardly make out anything of note due to the intensity of the dark red glow. Corey suggested that I open the door slightly to see what was inside. Thinking this to be a good idea, I grabbed onto the rusty doorknob, turned it as carefully as I could, and began to open the door. The door let out a loud creak, and the chanting seemed to suddenly stop. I turned to Corey, who was already starting to run, and began sprinting.